All right, everyone. So welcome to the Virtual College Exploration for all Pennsylvania students, sponsored by the Pennsylvania Association for College Admission Counseling and StriveScan. PACAC is a nonprofit association comprised of more than 1,200 school counselors, college admissions counselors, independent education consultants, and other professionals responsible for guiding students through this important transition from high school to post-secondary options. Thank you for joining us. I have a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. The first thing is that you can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off and they'll remain disabled for the duration of the presentation, so panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out our full schedule at pacac.org. That's PACAC.org. This presentation is being recorded and it'll be available within about a week at that same website, again, pacac.org, pacac.org. I would now like to turn it over to our presenters.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Good evening and welcome to our West Virginia University presentation. My name is Casey Lang and I am the regional recruiter for Western Pennsylvania. My colleagues and I are so excited to have you could join us tonight. So as we are presenting, please feel free to add your questions into the Q&A box and we will try to get to as many as possible at the end of the presentation. So West Virginia University is statewide and is made up of 3 distinct campuses. These campuses are located in the Morgantown, Kaiser, and Beckley cities of West Virginia. Morgantown is our largest campus with about 27,000 students and has our largest number of majors. Kaiser has about 1,300 students and offers both 2- and 4-year majors. And Beckley is slightly larger with about 1,700 students and over 40 bachelor's degrees programs. These next few slides will hopefully give you some idea of what it's like to be a student on our beautiful Morgantown campus. The Morgantown campus is divided into 3 distinct areas. They are the downtown area, the Evansdale area, and our health sciences area. Now, if you can imagine yourself in our downtown area of campus, we have a variety of academic buildings, residence halls, and our Mountain Layer Student Union. Now, once you're a student here, you will also see that it is home to our John Chambers College of Business and Economics, the Eberly College of Arts and Sciences, and Woodburn Hall, which is one of the most iconic buildings on our campus, pictured here on the slide. From downtown, we're going to hop on the Personal Rapid Transit, also known as the PRT, and arrive at our next area of campus. The PRT is one of its kind. It is a computer-run electric people mover whose transit cars have been taking students all over campus since 1975. It's an on-demand service and offers 5 stations across 3 parts of campus. Our next stop on the PRT is our health sciences area. This is your destination for health and wellness services, including student health services, our Mountaineer Pharmacy, the Caruth Center, as well as WVU Ruby Memorial Hospital. Now, if we jump back on the PRT, we're moving on to our Evansdale area of campus. This is home to several residence halls as well, in addition to our Creative Arts Center, Statler College of Engineering and Mineral Resources, the Davis College of Agriculture, Natural Resources and Design, Evansdale Crossing, which is our student union, and our Student Recreation Center. Our rec center boasts 17,000 square feet of weight and fitness equipment, an elevated running track, and a 50-foot climbing wall, just to name a few. In addition to all of this, students can take advantage of the natural beauty that Morgantown and the surrounding area has to offer, with trails, access to outdoor recreational equipment. These can be rented for hiking, camping, climbing, whitewater rafting, and more. So this wraps up my mini tour of campus, so I'm going to pass it on to my colleague.
All right, thank you, Casey. So great to see. What a great fall shot of Morgantown as well. It's like we're there right now. So on our next slide, we're going to talk a little bit specifically going into the Morgantown campus. So lots of the services, the features, applications, admissions. As we did share, we do have 3 campuses, but for the most of our presentation tonight, we are going to focus on the Morgantown campus. But if you have questions about the Kaiser or the Beckley campus, feel free to put those in the Q&A and we'll answer those as well. So right now you're going to be seeing a little bit about Morgantown on your screen. And starting off is the location. So we know that this is for Pennsylvania students, but we might have students from all over the country joining us. And one thing that we often hear is that Morgantown is in a really great ideal location for students. So depending on where you live, you might be closer to Morgantown than you think. So you can see it's about 1.5 hours south of Pittsburgh. I actually live in central Pennsylvania, and most of my students are about 3 to 5 hours away from campus, which often is met from, that is perfect, because I'm going to be away and I'm going to feel like I'm away, but I'm also going to be able to come home when I want to. I'm not going to be a plane ticket across the country. So it is not too close, but not too far. Also, as you probably saw a little bit in the pictures, I mean, Morgantown is home to 21,000 undergraduate students, but it's a very suburban sort of area. So it's also not super metropolitan. It's not super rural either. So we kind of would always put Morgantown kind of in a suburban sort of setting. That's also what we kind of consider WVU. And home to 21,000 students, but 54% of our students are from out of state. So we do have an in-state student population. So our students from West Virginia, we consider them to be in-state students. And our students from all other 49 states and all our 100+ countries that we have students from, we consider them out-of-state students. You might hear us call students non-residents as well if they're from out of state. It certainly creates a diverse student body and students from all sorts of places and all sorts of backgrounds on our campus. And speaking of that, when you are on our campus, you do live with us your very first year. We have 12 residence halls on our campus, and freshmen are required to live on campus. So those 12 residence halls, you do get to pick where you want to live. So that's certainly absolutely your choice. And there's not a bad spot to live on campus. It's a very frequently asked question. Well, where do I live? You can absolutely choose wherever you want to live on campus. We even have living learning communities, and that's a spot where students can live with students that have similar majors, similar interests, similar passions that they're advocating for. So that's also something that an admissions counselor or one of our current students is always glad to discuss our housing with you, but you do live on campus with us your first year. And now we want to talk about some really great WVU traditions. So if you are looking at the slide, you are going to see, if you're looking at the picture on the left, that is a picture of the personal rapid transit, which we call the PRT for short. And WVU has Mountaineer Week every year, and there's lots of great traditions celebrated during Mountaineer Week. And one of the traditions in the past had been a PRT cram, and we tried to see how many students could fit in one of those PRT cars. Now, of course, this is stationary. This PRT is not moving. It's not on a track. But that's kind of I think the record is about 97 students. I'm guessing maybe some of our engineering students were helping configure how 97 people could fit in a PRT car. But that did not happen specifically this year. The PRT cram was put on hold as an activity for Mountaineer Week. But some things that definitely are still happening on our campus. First is singing Country Roads. We often joke that if you are interested in WVU, and especially once you're admitted, your first assignment might be to learn the words to John Denver's song, Country Roads Take Me Home. It's a very popular song on our campus, as you can probably imagine. Also, you can see a pepperoni roll. Pepperoni rolls it's a piece of pepperoni with Italian bread baked on the outside, and the spices of the pepperoni get through all the bread. And it's a really special tradition in the state of West Virginia. because the pepperoni roll was founded by one of our local bakeries. Coal mining has historically been an industry that was popular in the state of West Virginia, and coal miners needed something hearty, something non-perishable, something sustainable to carry with them in their lunch pail. So hence why a pepperoni roll was born. And there's lots of variations of a pepperoni roll now. A really good talking conversation to a West Virginia student is to say, where do you think your favorite pepperoni roll is from? But it's definitely something you'll get to sample when you're on our campus. And also, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about our Mountaineer mascot. So West Virginia University, our mascot is the Mountaineer. And one thing that's really unique about that is it's one of the only mascots that when they're kind of in uniform, that their face is visible. So it becomes to, I think, a symbol of not only the university, but also of our student body, because everyone knows the Mountaineer. They see them when they're the Mountaineer wearing those official buckskins, the coonskin cap, which is indeed real. It's real buckskins, real moccasins. It's a real coonskin cap. So they see them when they are the Mountaineer, but yet they also know them when they're on campus, when they're taking their classes. So I think really representative of our student body and kind of that togetherness, cohesiveness, trying to know each other that you'll see as a West Virginia University student. So as we move on to the next slide, we are also going to talk about student life on campus. We talked about some great traditions that our students enjoy, but let's talk a little bit about other things that students do on campus. So just like now, you're probably hopefully you're working really hard in school, doing great in your classes, but you might be involved in clubs and organizations, whether that is through your school, in your community. We want you to be that as a WVU student. We want you to come and get a great education, but we also want you to continue to explore your interests, your hobbies, your passions, the items that you want to be advocating for. So we have over 400 student clubs and organizations on campus. So everything from being outdoors, like the outdoor adventure clubs, to performing arts. A lot of students, if they are in some of our plays or they're in our bands, they might not be a music major, they're a different major, but they love music, they love performing arts. So there are a ton of different opportunities, and we just have a small sample. Of course, we weren't going to list all of them with 400, but this is also something, if you have any questions about a student club and organization, you can pop it in the Q&A. So we're going to move on to our next slide as we talk about diversity on our campus. So West Virginia University is committed to ensuring that our culture is free of any racism, bias, and social injustices. Our president, our student body is committed to working to make that happen, because that is ongoing work and an ongoing conversation. Just this week, we've been celebrating Diversity Week at WVU, and this is an opportunity for students, faculty, and staff to learn more about the beautifulness, the beautiful hues that we see on campus from each and every one of our students. How do we understand the identities and the expressions of different students and staff and faculty? So today was actually all about learning about Hispanic culture and Latinx culture on our campus. So this is done through a series of town hall meetings and lectures and trainings and panels and even a festival of ideas. We also have diversity student ambassadors that specifically work in terms of at Diversity Week, but also work on their own special projects to ensure that we have a diverse and inclusive campus. It's certainly something that is a mission of ours as a land-grant institution in the state of West Virginia, in order to make sure that our students are diverse, inclusive, and ready to go out and do that in the world as well. So as we move on to our next slide, we are going to talk about the fact, this is just a very quick slide, kind of goes into as we're learning a little more about the West Virginia University, the Morgantown campus. We are part of the Big 12 Conference. So that is our athletic conference. So we are a Division I school that is part of the Big 12 Conference. Those are some of the other universities that are in the Big 12 Conference. And it's not just for athletics. It's certainly, we partner with the Big 12 in a lot of different ways in order to learn more about the academics, the offerings, the admissions, the student life. So it's more than just, we often think, and we often are first introduced to conferences through athletics, but it's also other collaborations that happen amongst schools as well. So as we move on to our next slide,
we're going to talk about applying to WVU, because we hope at this point you are excited about, yep, I think this is really a good fit for me. So let's talk about applying to WVU. Now we know that maybe in our group tonight, we have a mix of seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, maybe even. So please know specifically, we're going to be talking, this is what a senior needs to do this year. Probably going to look pretty similar for a junior next year, but this is where our role as admissions counselors comes into play, because Casey, Jackie, myself, we're able to work with you when it is your time to apply to WVU. WVU has what is called rolling admissions. And what that means is there's not a deadline to submit your application. So we have started to process applications. We will process applications the whole year. Once we receive all your application materials, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get an admissions decision from WVU. So we've already had students have gotten to open their letters and see that they have been invited to join us as a Mountaineer in fall 2021. So if you are a senior, we do encourage you to consider applying soon, because there are some things that you can move forward with. So once you would be admitted, you could put down deposits if you want. So certainly that is something that your admissions counselor is glad to help you with. But just know, kind of rolling admissions means we are processing applications the entire year. And if you're a junior in the group, this means next August, go ahead, punch it into your phone, mark your calendars that you can apply to WVU starting next August. When you are applying to WVU, we would accept either a common application or our WVU application. Either one, completely your choice. We do require that application, and we also require, we need to see your classes, grades, and cumulative GPA. So you can see we have that's your transcripts. So you just have your high school send a transcript to us. You could even send us an unofficial transcript as a PDF and an email. We would use that for your initial admissions review. You could attach your transcript to our WVU application, or you can do what's called self-reporting on either our application or common application. And that means you actually list out, here's the classes I took, here's my grades, here's the classes I'm in senior year. So there are lots of different options, but just know we need to see classes for 9th through 12th grade, grades for 9th through 11th grade, and your cumulative GPA. We are test optional on our application for fall 2021. So that means that you could submit your application to be reviewed without test scores. So if you've not gotten to take SATs or ACTs, you would just put, I want to apply test optional, and we would just look at that application, courses, grades, and GPA when we are reviewing your application for admissions. However, this is absolutely something we're encouraging students to have a conversation with us, because as you can see, some majors might have specific requirements in terms of needing a score on file, or they want to have a conversation with you about another form of a math assessment. A lot of this comes down to, we want to make sure that you are set up for success at WVU. So we need to have some things in place to assess your math readiness. SAT and ACT scores are one of those, maybe classes you're taking right now, like an AP calculus. So this, again, it's very individual. It depends on you. It depends on your major. So your admissions counselor is glad to help you with, but we're going to talk about scholarships next, and also know that certain SAT and ACT scores could be advantageous for us to have on file in order to get you the best possible scholarship at WVU. So right now, what you're seeing on the screen, this is our one of two. So we're on this slide. We'll look at another scholarship option in a minute. These are our scholarships of distinction. These are merit-based scholarships. And what a merit-based scholarship is, it means that is you receiving a scholarship for the hard work that you have put in high school. So if you can look, and I know it might be hard to see on that graph, but if you looked at that, you can see your cumulative high school GPA, you would match that up with your SAT or ACT score. We do super score, so that means we use your best section scores, even if you've taken SATs or ACTs more than once. So we would look at, you have a certain GPA and a certain test score, that is the scholarship of distinction you would receive. Now, please know, I want to make sure I say this because I think this is really important. We would look at the information we have on file from you, but you could continue to send information to us up until May 1. So you can be admitted to WVU, but you can continue to send us an updated cumulative GPA if that's printed on your high school transcript. Your set of SAT and ACT scores if you take them in December or early next year. So you can be admitted to the university and then just continue to send us any information in order to make sure you get the best possible scholarship from WVU. And we're going to move to the next slide because this is our scholarship with GPA and test scores. But now we are looking at our Go First scholarship, which is our test optional scholarship. So if you are a student that you've not gotten to take SATs or ACTs and maybe you are not going to be able to, WVU is awarding scholarships based just on GPA. So for example, there you can see that if you have a 3.5 high school GPA, you would be receiving, and we'll make sure you're looking, depending if you are an out-of-state student, you're looking in that column, you would be receiving a $9,000 a year academic scholarship at WVU. Now, please know as well, we saw two different scholarships. So our scholarships of distinction and our Go First scholarship. WVU is going to award you the scholarship that benefits you the most. So maybe you did take those SATs and ACTs, but you're maybe qualifying for a $9,000 a year scholarship from a scholarship of distinction perspective, but you have a 3.8 GPA, so you're qualifying for a higher Go First scholarship. And I don't want to get too into the numbers because, again, this is very individual, and your admissions counselor, we're always glad to kind of talk that through with students. But just know that we are going to award you the scholarship that benefits you the most for your time at WVU. And I want to make sure before we move to the next slide to mention as well, these are renewable scholarships each year at WVU. So if you come in on a $9,000 a year scholarship, you receive that scholarship each year as long as you maintain a GPA, which I believe is a 2.75, a GPA of a 2.75, so very manageable, and take 30 credits a year. We also want to keep you on track to be graduating. So for most students, they're going to come in on a certain scholarship and they're going to renew that for all 4 years at WVU. So we're going to move on to the next slide. And again, any scholarship questions, you can be popping those into the chat. And I'm going to let Jackie take over about unique majors and learn a little more about campus.
Thank you for passing the baton on to me, Kelly. So we've talked about a lot of things about West Virginia University. We've talked about where we're located, what we look like, both academically and you know, what the campus looks like, and now what do our majors look like? So we do have over 140 majors on our campus, and between all 3 campuses, we have even more majors offered within our system. So just keep that in mind. One of the things that I like to point out prior to talking about majors is we do have 14 undergraduate schools right on our campus. So there is a number of different pathways that you can get involved in. With your major, you might major and minor, but you're never set in stone at WVU until it's really time to set your major if you don't want to be. Some students know what they want to major in, and so they come right in, knowing immediately, for example, that they're going to be in the 3+3 law track, which is a unique major at WVU. So we do have most general majors that I'm asked about. I very rarely get stumped on a major that we don't have. So just keep that in mind, and that these are just our unique majors that are offered on campus, and I'll talk a little bit about some of them. So neuroscience is a newer undergraduate program. We've had the graduate program, but we're doing a lot of research in that program with the opioid crisis. Biochemistry has 2 tracks. There's a food science track as well as a regular biochem track. I like to point out the 3+3 law track because you can actually have your JD or earn your JD within 6 years. We do have a law school on campus. And sport and adventure media is on kind of the broadcasting side of sports. We have animal programs. Art technical history is a really cool program where you're learning the science of art and art preservation and curating. Forensics, for crime scene investigation houses on our campus. And right now, the next 2, immunology and medical microbiology and public health. How relevant right now. So if you don't know what immunology and medical microbiology pertains to, it does pertain to infectious disease and vaccines, and that there's a lot of research happening right now on our campus in those areas. Public health is the policy side of that. So you don't only have to work in a pandemic policy side of public health, but students go and work for FEMA, Red Cross. They go to law school sometimes so that they can learn to write bills for Congress, for example. Landscape architecture, pretty self-explanatory. We have a petroleum program in engineering. Sport and exercise psychology is a part of our College of Physical Activity and Sports Sciences, as well as coaching. Keep in mind those two programs, a lot of students say, well, when I ask a lot of students, what do you love about your life in school right now? A lot of students do say sports, but there's no majors in sports that I can get into. We have a whole entire research center and undergraduate school dedicated just to sports and those majors. Fashion, dress, and merchandising, one that most people don't think we would offer at WVU. Biometrics is kind of where forensics meets engineering. I always love talking about wood science technology. That just shows how specific you can get in environmental science on our campus. And we have a number of programs dedicated to that. And wood science technology, by the way, is looking at wood in a more advanced way, even in terms of sustainability, finding other methods of using alternatives to wood so that we can save our trees in some cases. Interactive design for media mixes art, graphic art, and media together. And then health and well-being and interior design are two other pretty unique majors that we have on our campus. And I'll go on to the next slide as we talk about our research. So we are one of only 118 institutions that are categorized as an R1. So what does that mean? The Carnegie Foundation has set the caliber or set the standard high for research. And basically this is what every university strives for, to get the R1 recognition. It really comes down to, we have high activity in research in all fields of our campus, all fields on our campus. So just keep that in mind. If you're coming to WVU as an undergrad, it is totally possible to do research. And these are not research opportunities in just the STEM fields. They span all of our majors. So you don't really think of some majors doing research like a STEM field would, but most are doing their own type of research within their fields. And we'll talk about our academic facilities in a minute. So we do have a study abroad program. If you're planning to study abroad, we send students out all over the world. Right now it's kind of on hiatus, but we will get back to sending students all over the world for both really fun adventures or studying abroad at another university in a different country, or going to do a homestay in a different country. We can really tailor it to your needs and your financial situation. We just encourage students to pop into the study abroad office, make an appointment your first year so that we can figure out what would work best for you. And on the next slide, we're going to look at some of our research facilities. So these are research facilities that aren't just at WVU Morgantown, but some are spread across the state. So the Core Arboretum, you can see a picture of the student in the middle of the middle center. That is at the Core Arboretum. It is a 91-acre facility, and it is right next to WVU in Morgantown. We do have lifelike patient simulators. So if you're a nursing student, you are going to use some robots to really simulate emergencies that first year. So when you step into your clinicals, you're all set. You've worked with doctors that we bring down from the hospitals to help you work on that. We videotape those, and we give you feedback on what you could have done better or what you did really well. We have plenty of farms and forests that you can participate in research on at 5,000 pieces of artwork. We have an art museum on campus. Our robotics team and our Lunabots in particular win NASA grants a couple of times within the last few years. So the Green Bank Observatory is actually a telescope that our students do have access to for undergraduate research, depending on if there is a professor doing research with the Green Bank Observatory. It is the world's largest fully steerable telescope. The planetarium is in the background of this slide that you can see. And if you ever visit WVU, you can come into the planetarium for the show. We'll talk about visiting in a minute. We have a rare books room, historic costumes collection. We have 5 theaters, 4 shops for the theater program, 3 labs for the theater program, and 1 dance studio. We have 2 teaching hospitals. We do have a medical school on campus. Keep in mind, if you are coming to WVU for health sciences or for nursing, you do not need to leave our town to participate in research, internships, clinicals that our medical students are also participating in. It's right in one area, as you saw earlier on the health sciences campus. We also have dozens of science labs. We just keep reinvigorating our science labs and building new facilities and media editing labs, as well as a music industry lab to help produce music. And our next slide, I will talk to you about the campus resources. Sorry, I drew a blank on what the next one was. So we do have the Caruth Center. That area of campus, or the building on campus, is dedicated to helping students achieve mental wellness that is productive and works for them. We have psychiatrists and psychologists on staff. We have just increased the number of staff members in the Caruth Center. We also have a wellness center that functions much like a doctor's office on campus. So when you walk into the wellness center for students, it looks like a doctor's office. We have doctors and nurse practitioners available for you. And then we have what's called Well WVU. That encompasses everything, both mental and physical wellness through our rec center and yoga, and then also through our mental wellness center. The student employment program, we will help you find a job as best we can while you're in undergrad. The Writing Center and the Math Center are so helpful to students who maybe don't necessarily need a tutor in those areas, or maybe you do have a tutor in those areas, but this is something that you could go, a place that you could go walk into and get help on the spot. We have tutoring. Accessibility services is available for students who are bringing in IEPs. MindFit also goes with accessibility services. Rise WVU and First Generation initiatives are for students whose parents did not attend college. I was one of those students. We are helping these students to navigate and find the resources that first year. And we have a career center, of course, tons of career mock interviews, chances to go to career fairs, and just a great center to stop in when you're a freshman to see what you can do moving forward throughout your next 4 years at WVU to get the job and land the job that you'd really like to land. And our safety office is amazing, award-winning. We work well with the WVU PD. We have our own police officers. And this is one of my favorite things to talk about, our therapy dogs. So the therapy at WVU, we have a program called the Hearts of Gold program. And this is a program where we actually help students learn to become service dog trainers. And this is to help, these therapy dogs are mostly trained to help people with mobility impairment, as well as post-traumatic stress disorder. You can take courses. It is a minor. There is research happening in this minor all of the time. And they do also serve our community, not just in Morgantown, but also on our campus community. If you look next to each of these dogs, you'll see their names and then where they're residing most of the time in our campus community. So you might be walking down campus and see Vivian from the Chambers College of Business and Economics. Usually with these service dogs, you are allowed to stop and pet them. That's what they're there for, because they are there to provide stress relief for students. But if you do see other service dogs walking down campus, you would need to ask if it's okay to pet them, because usually they're in training. But these are residing in our different colleges within the university. So it's pretty awesome. And parking and transportation. So we do try to encourage students their first year not to bring a car. We do not have a lot of parking on campus, and you will have to pay an extra fee to park on the campus as a freshman. You won't be able to park on campus. You'll have to find private parking off campus. Sometimes there is parking available on campus for students, but it's few and far between. So just keep that in mind. You'll have to make sure that you have those accommodations in place before arriving at WVU. We have the PRT to get around. We have the Mountain Line. We also have the Parents Association that has bus trips home. Now, the closer you are to campus in Pennsylvania, the less chance you have that a bus will be running through your town. These are for mostly southeastern Pennsylvania into New Jersey and Delaware students. They have buses that go round trip. And we also have a bus that runs to Pittsburgh twice a day. So keep that in mind. It's very easy to get to Pittsburgh and on the Greyhound as well, or on a flight. And finally, we do want to tell you that at this current time, we do not have on-campus visits. So we have virtual visit opportunities. If you would like to learn more about WVU very in-depth or comprehensively, you can come to our open house this weekend. It's Friday night and Saturday. Saturday, it runs pretty much all day, but the academic sessions will be in the morning. So just keep that in mind if you want to meet with your major that you're interested in, and anybody is invited to this. It's not just admitted students. Tour Guide Live. We have students running around our campus all day giving giving tours, and they are doing them either through GoPro or not through GoPro. So just make sure you pay attention to which one you're signing up for. We have Go First Fridays. They're like a rah-rah kind of program on our football weekends typically. And those are at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ask Us Anythings take place on Tuesday nights throughout the fall, and you can see the dates that are listed there. You can also contact Kelly, Casey, or myself if you would like to get in touch with us and learn more information about WVU, or if you would like to be connected to a specific part of campus. We do want to thank you for joining us, and we want to get to our favorite part, which is answering your questions. We have a couple minutes left to take some questions. So let's see what questions you guys are asking.
I'm going to start off. Yeah, so everybody, we have about 5 or so minutes. So this is the time, get the fingers going and plug in some Q&A. So I'm just going to take the very first one. So is 4 weeks the soonest that you'd hear about your application? It could be sooner. We say 4 to 6 weeks once all application materials have been received, but it could be sooner than that. So an admissions counselor is glad to continue to help you check your status of your application. And then the next question, I appreciate, we're doing well and hope the same is true. Do we have scholarships for being the first student in your family to attend college?
So we do not have scholarships currently that I know of for first generation students at this point in time. We have as you saw, a very generous scholarship program across the board. We do offer, on top of that we didn't talk about, which are on our website, some diversity scholarships as well as leadership scholarships. So there are those 2 other opportunities for out-of-state students, and the requirements for those scholarships are posted on our website. But specifically for first student in your family to attend college, we don't have anything outlined just yet for that. So it is a good idea though. Any other questions that you have? What other things can we help you with right now? We are here to help.
And I think is hopefully, again, throw anything else in the chat. I know we were pretty comprehensive, especially it's later in the week. So we know everyone's probably had a nice long week of lots of virtual learning. So we are really grateful. I think we just want to take this moment as well to make sure we say we are really grateful that you came out tonight to join us. We hope this is just one step in your WVU journey, that there are more times that you want to engage with us, that we've gotten you excited about WVU and what it might be able to offer you. And just a quick breakdown, we talked about this at the beginning, but a reminder for anybody who is a student in Pennsylvania and surrounding areas. So we're specific admissions counselors that work in Pennsylvania. So I'm Kelly. I think I work with students in kind of central and northeastern Pennsylvania. I also work with students in a little portion of Maryland. So if you're getting emails from someone named Kelly, who's your admissions counselor from WVU, that's me. And then also I'll just do Jackie who covers Eastern Pennsylvania and part of New Jersey and Delaware. And Casey is in Western Pennsylvania. So if you've seen Jackie, Kelly, or Casey, here we are. Like we're glad to get to virtually meet and engage with you tonight.
Yes, it is awesome to meet with you. And one of the best things that you can do when we do open up safely again is visit. I mean, we can sit here and talk all day long about how great our campus is and how everybody just fits in. There is just such a nice fit for everybody at our campus, but to experience it is so much better than hearing us speak about it. Keep in mind that although we are not offering in-person visits right now, you can, like I said, virtually visit. And it might be one of the programs that I showed you on the last slide. But if you contacted us and said, I'd really like to speak with a student who's majoring in this, or a student in the honors college, or a faculty member who's researching this, we can make that happen for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us anytime. We know that this is a big financial decision for you when you're deciding on where you'd like to attend. And it's also just a big life decision. And we want to make sure that it is the fit for your family. So please don't hesitate.
And we're also offering live kind of GoPro type of tours as well. So on Mondays and Wednesdays at 5:30, one is our downtown campus and the other is our Evansdale area of campus. That's a great way. You're able to connect with our tour guides. There's a chat box similar to this where you're able to get all your questions answered. The weather's beautiful, so it's really nice to see campus in the fall. So it's also another great way to kind of see campus without actually being having to come to campus.
And we have a quick, maybe final question. Are students currently taking in-person classes?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. We have the freshmen on campus, and we have some sophomores, juniors, and seniors who are taking their labs. We wanted to make sure that students who were doing clinicals and had to be in their labs, that they were able to take the classes on campus. But for right now, it is the freshmen on campus, and we hope to have a full campus sooner than later. So we're functioning right now just fine, and we've been really about that.
And of course, we have COVID protocols in place. When we announced a return to campus, every student, staff, and faculty got tested before returning to campus. That was provided by us as a university. We continue to complete daily wellness checks. So that's to make sure that have you had feeling any symptoms? So that's an important thing that we do every day to make sure that doing the wellness check. There is a mask wearing mandate on campus. Students are subject to a student code of conduct if they are not following that. There's of course spaced out seating, protocols and things in place on the residence halls. So of course, when we announced we were going to return to campus, we knew how important that was for students and staff and families. Like that's what we heard from students and families. We want our students to be on campus. So we wanted to make sure that we are doing that as safe as possible, and we continue to do that.
And that's a good point, Kelly, because right before we brought the students back, they actually had to complete a pretty intensive education module. Sure. Yeah. And that was a part of the student code of conduct and holding students accountable for health and wellness. So it's been, it's been interesting. And I guess having the medical microbiology and immunology program and center on our campus has been super helpful to guiding our decisions in
yeah, absolutely. I think about our state, the West Virginia state, our health department czar, like the head was making all the decisions about coronavirus in West Virginia, is a WVU faculty and staff member in our School of Medicine. So it just kind of, I think that integration of having the teaching hospital on campus was really impactful in terms of the decision making, and as well as the decisions that we continue to make and protocols we have in place to keep everyone as safe as we can.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think our time is coming to an end. We're right at 7:45, and I want to make sure we have a second to say goodbye, true goodbye, or hopefully, before we get out of here. And so, again, Jackie in Southeastern Pennsylvania, Kelly is in Central Pennsylvania, and Casey is in Western Pennsylvania. Kelly also handles Northeastern PA. So get in touch with us.
Right.
That's the thing that we can leave you with.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you. Thank you for attending.
All right, well, thank you for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We would appreciate any feedback you can provide. Like I said at the beginning, this is just one of many sessions being hosted. So be sure to sign up for additional sessions at pacac.org. And again, as a reminder, in about a week, you'll be able to find this recording as well as the recording of all of our other sessions at pacac.org. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evening.